Hey guys, this is Metal Stash again, and this time I am going over the camera updates that I did, where I basically just did some little fine tunes where you could zoom in and rotate around, and I thought these were going to be really easy to do, really easy to add into my game, but they started to come out very difficult. So I'm going to go over the issues that I had trying to make these and maybe help you guys out you know so you guys don't run into these issues and show you guys what issues I had. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about so you guys get an idea. I just added some a simple zoom action where you can zoom in and out, and then a not so simple, or seemed simple, rotation around point action. This one killed me for the amount of time it took, but I wanted to add it because it's just a small thing that makes it a little bit cooler in functionality. Maybe it's too much processing, I don't know. I added it and I'm going to show you guys how I did it. So the first thing I started off doing was the zoom. This is fairly easy to do. I just get the scroll wheel axis, which I actually had to figure out was an axis, and because they don't really tell you, I had to actually go into the project settings and look at what it was, and I found out that it is an axis indeed, and that is how you access it. And I just first check if it's not 0. That means you're using it. So then I go off to check if it's greater than 0. I do my checks for zooming in then, because when you're scrolling forward, you normally want to zoom in, not zoom out. So then I check if the position of my camera, I'm just moving it up and down for right now. I might add a little bit of rotation as you go down, so you get a little bit more linear view as you go down, so that changes maybe the field of view. I'm not sure. I might just leave it as that because this is pretty simple. I just check if it's less than the minimum zoom. The minimum zoom is the minimum height that the camera can be at. Right now I have the minimum zoom is 50 and the maximum zoom is 100. I might do a later check for setting the camera at the maximum zoom so that it can't be out of that range, because right now it actually could be, because I don't do any checks for that, but that's not really important right now. So I just check if minimum zoom plus the minimum zoom amount. That is another variable that is very important. It is a variable that, because I'm zooming in at kind of this decelerating rate, the decelerating rate can get so slow that it takes actually a while to get to that end point. So I just do a check. If it's in this range to the end, it just sets the moving distance to that difference, so that you just eventually meet that difference at 0.5 away from it. Otherwise, it takes the amount that it wants to move as the difference between the height and the minimum zoom, and divided by the zoom factor. Zoom factor is the decelerating number that makes it look like it's decelerating. It's just dividing by 4 every single time. So as you're getting closer and closer, you're moving a little slower every time. So it just makes it that little tiny added thing that's kind of cool. And then I just check if you're zooming out. I do the same exact thing, just the opposite way. If it's greater than the max zoom minus the minimum zoom amount, then just do the same thing, get the difference between the two. Otherwise, I add this times 2 here as you're going up, because if you want to go up, you just want to reach the top. You don't really want to go slowly. When you're zooming in, you're fine if you're going a little slow zooming in. I don't know, that's just kind of my own preference. And so then I just do my last move function here, so it saves on processing and doesn't keep moving around constantly in a retarded way. So then I have this function here called calculate screen conversion. I'm going to go into that a later video because I actually recorded this once before and it took actually like 23 minutes to explain it all, so I'm redoing it to explain half of it. So to get this video rolling, going on to my Q and E rotation. That is how I rotate, is using the Q and E buttons. So I move around with WASD and rotate the camera with Q and E. My first thing I do is cast array through the camera's center so that you get this nice rotation around point. And then I get the angle from the transform, and it's important that you know that transform.rotation gives you a different value than transform.Euler angles. Euler angles are what most people know as 0 to 360. Most people know those angles. They're pretty easy. Transform.rotation, I'm not sure if it gives you the radian value of rotation or a custom value from 0 to 1, because I've looked at the debug values and print them all out before while rotating, and it gives you kind of these weird numbers that don't come out to 0 to 2 pi or 0 to 1. So I kind of went away from using rotation and used Euler angles instead because they make more sense. But the negative and positive directions in rotating are a little weird. I'm going to go into that. You start off at 0. As you rotate negatively, the value of rotation is changed to 359, decreasing. As you go up, you're normally going, you're just adding to it. So that way is normal. The other way, going negative, kind of gets weird. So what I did, I just do a check. If it's less than 0, that means it's a small negative value. It'll every once in a while get like negative 0.1 e to the negative 17th. I just set that to 0 because I don't care if it's that small. It's 0. So then I use two temporary angles. My temporary angle 1 represents the conversion of 359 to 330 and converting that to subtract 360 to make that a negative value, because I was running into the issue where 0 was less than or was within the range of 0 to 30, which is my rotation range, so you guys know, but it's also less than 360. So I was running into a lot of issues with that because I didn't know that the way they had it at 360 and 0, like how they were represented, it was kind of confusing me. I don't know why it was like taking me so long to realize this, but I just check if it's less than 360 and greater than that. That means it's in that side range to the right. I subtract 360. So then if Q is pressed and the temporary angle is less than rotation range, that means it's going to be between negative 30 and 30. So it's going to be a 60 angle rotation. Then set its rotation amount to the rotation range, which is 30 minus the temporary angle, and then divide by that angular speed factor. Same thing as my zoom factor, it just makes it nice acceleration, deceleration type of thing. Now, I just do also that same check where if the difference between the two angles is less than a certain minimum amount, then just set the rotation amount to that difference. That just makes it so you reach the end a little quicker, so it's not such a long, dragged out rotation. Now, if Q is not pressed, this is that rotation back to your initial spot. You see how when I'm pressing Q, you're rotating to actually the right, but you kind of rotate around this point going left. It's kind of weird sounding, but then it rotates you back straight. This took forever to get to work, but I finally got it to work, and it works beautifully. If the angle is greater than the minimum angular amount, that is just representing if the same thing as this up here, where it's just doing, if it's reaching up close to that range, because that where it wants to reach is 0. It also does a check if as long as E is not pressed, it's going to set the rotation amount to negative temporary angle 1 divided by the speed factor, so that you're just rotating back to that your starting point at a speed factor. Then I go on to my second temporary angle. This is converting the 0 to 30 angle side to 360 to 390, so that you now get this nice range from 330 to 390. So you're still getting the same 60-degree angle. It's just converted so that you don't run into issues. I do the same stuff. Only differences is I take 360 minus rotation range. That's basically it of changing. I changed my temporary angle 1 to angle 2, but all the code is basically exactly the same thing for this side. It's just having to figure that out took forever. And then the beauty function that does everything for me, rotate around this rotation point and around this axis, which is just the y-axis, this amount. And that's how I was able to get it to rotate. I'm so glad I got that to work, even though, some people might say, well, it's not that important to have. Well, sometimes you want to be able to rotate, or maybe look at a different angle at something, or maybe you want to admire a unit. I don't know. It's your own preference. If you liked this video, please subscribe, leave a comment, whatever. I will see you guys later. Peace out.